There's a massive escalation in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia claims there was an assassination attempt on the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Russia claims 2 drones targeted the Kremlin. The Russian President Vladimir Putin is safe. Moscow says no damage to any property or there was no victim on ground. Ukraine, of course, has officially denied any role in the Kremlin drone attack. Kremlin has warned of retaliatory strikes after this drone attack. Reports say President Putin was at a secure location on the outskirts of Moscow. Incidentally, a 3rd drone has now been found in the forest near Moscow. Election Commission issues notice to Mallikarjun Kharge for his snake remark and Priyank Kharge for his nalayak beta attack on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Notice also sent to BJP MLA Yatnal for calling Sonia Gandhi Vishkanya. Suspense over Sharad Pawar resignation. Jitendra Awad and party cadre quit to mount pressure on Pawar to return as the NCP chief. Who will lead the NCP in 2024? Indian Olympic Association chief PT Usha meets the protesting wrestlers. This after she called the agitation indiscipline. Wrestlers remain defiant and insist they will not stop their agitation till they get justice. Big relief for the Kerala story in the Supreme Court. The Apex Court rejects the plea seeking a disclaimer on the movie. The Supreme Court also directs the petitioners to approach the Kerala High Court first. India gears up for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Foreign Ministers meet. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is in Goa ahead of this meeting. His Pakistani counterpart Bilawal Bhutto Zardari arrives tomorrow. The word Kremlin means a fortress or a citadel. Was there a breach at the Moscow citadel, the most secure location in Moscow, the seat of power, the Kremlin? Russia has claimed Ukraine launched a terror strike. 2 unmanned aerial vehicles attempted to hit the Russian President Vladimir Putin at his residence at the Kremlin. He wasn't at home when the drone strike took place, and we're showing you images of the unmanned aerial vehicle, that little blast that takes place on the dome of the Kremlin. Kremlin has accused Kiev of trying to assassinate the Russian president. Russia in a statement said that electronic radar air defense systems took down both the drones. One of the drones, incidentally, as you can see in that image, hit the Kremlin Senate building dome. Russia says this was a planned terrorist strike, but Russia insists the May 9 Victory Day parade to mark Russia's victory over Germany in the Second World War will continue as planned. Though there are some reports that say that several cities across Russia will now have a scaled down parade in view of the Ukrainian threat. The Russian strike, the Ukrainian strike on Kremlin. Now, will this lead to a hard retaliation? Will Russia strike Ukraine ahead of the planned Ukrainian offensive to take back territories lost to Russia in the past 1 year and 3 months? Ukraine's President Zelenskyy is in Finland. He sought both fighter jets and longer-range missiles to launch an offensive operation. So far, large quantities of weapons that NATO countries have given Ukraine are for a defensive role to protect the Ukrainian skies from incoming Russian missiles and aircraft. Of course, Ukraine has got a fair amount of tanks, artillery, including 155mm shells, and of course armored fighting vehicles. The US says it will take Kremlin's claim not with a pinch, but a large shaker of salt.
flying object, a fire and a plume of pale smoke. Allegedly the most audacious attack attempted on Russian soil since the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. On Wednesday, Russia accused Ukraine of attempt to kill President Vladimir Putin overnight. According to the Kremlin, 2 drones aimed at Putin's residence were disabled by Russian defenses. No victims, no material damage. Putin is safe. The Russian president was not in the Kremlin at the time of the alleged assault.
Right now, Moscow is preparing for Victory Day celebrations on May 9. So the Victory Day celebrations take place at the Red Square near the Kremlin. So that zone is like highly secured, and you cannot easily fly drones there. So why it was not shot, before? I mean, there are lots of all these questions that are going to be asked and hopefully answered.
Moscow has warned of retaliation, signaling what could be potential escalation in the war with Ukraine. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is in Finland. His spokesperson denied Ukraine's involvement in the alleged UAV attack in Russia.
Щодо дронів над Кремлем.
Ukraine has nothing to do with it. Russia is finding excuses to justify its large-scale terrorist strikes against civilians in Ukraine. I underline it one more time. Attacking Kremlin with drones is not Ukraine's goal.
The incident came ahead of Russia's Victory Day parade on May 9th, which foreign dignitaries are expected to attend. The event, which commemorates the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany, would go ahead as planned. Bureau Report, India Today.
And India Today gets you all sides of the story. Let me now get you the latest from Moscow and from Kiev. Also, of course, from Goa, where the SCO foreign ministers will meet on the 4th and the 5th of May. Joining me on the show, Maria Mesnitseva, Member of Parliament from Ukraine. Xenia Kondrateva is a journalist who joins us from Moscow. Rajesh Pawar is a journalist who joins us from Kyiv, Ukraine. And Geeta Mohan, a foreign affairs editor, joins us from Goa. But I want to cut across to Maria Mesnitseva, Member of Parliament first. And Maria, I want to understand from you, as a Member of Parliament in Ukraine, is there an apprehension now that there will be an escalation from the Russian side? Will Russia launch bigger strikes on Ukraine? They're claiming this was a terrorist attack from Ukraine.
Well, first of all, we have only one terrorist country in this story, and this is Russian Federation, who has started the unprovoked aggression back in 2014 and escalated to the next level in 2022 as the full-scale offensive aggression. And this is something we don't even debate, because in your story there was a comment that the word Ukraine threat. Well, we have only a Russian threat, not only towards Ukraine, but towards the rest of the world, towards India as well, in terms of energy security, food security, and other means of security, which has been calculated by UN. It's 1.7 billion people on the planet in 94 countries.
Maria Mesnitseva, the fact remains that there was a drone strike on the Kremlin.
We know that this is a provocation of Kremlin to say, I am citing Russian propaganda, that this has been a purpose launch of drones on Kremlin. Well, as it was rightly said by your TV channel, we disregard these claims because we view it as yet another provocation prior to so-called Victory Day, which Russia usually celebrates on the 9th of May and the whole world on the 8th of May. So we have had, I am in Kiev right now, I can tell you that we have had several air raid alarms, as we have almost on daily basis in my city, home region Kharkiv as well. And this, the counteroffensive which Russia is referring to, is a normal response to what has been going on the field. They have invaded Ukraine as an independent state, and they should have a response to it. But the drones next to Kremlin, we regard as a provocative story for Russia to start coming with further provocations on the ground. Thank you.
So, Maria Mezhitseva, what do you see happen in the days and weeks ahead?
We see that Ukraine as a state, together with allied partners, you have mentioned the visit of President Zelenskyy to Finland with regards to military aid, humanitarian aid, and other programs of restorations of critical infrastructure which Russia has destroyed. And by the way, it's also a genocide according to 1948 declaration, not only the mass deportation.
Okay, we are waiting.
Winning and restoring its territories as of 1991, internationally recognized borders. To this Victory Day, I hope we are approaching very soon, together with the whole world and hopefully with the support of Indian people.
But I explained this to me. President Zelenskyy was looking for fighter jets and he was looking for longer range missiles. You know, whether it's with the United States of America or with NATO countries, or even at this Nordic summit where he's met and is meeting the 5 heads of state of the Nordic countries. Are you getting the fighter jets and the longer range missiles, ma'am?
We hope that the deal will be finalized very soon. I want to stress once again, we are defending. We are not offending anyone. We're not trying to, take someone's land as Russia is doing that. We are defending our territory, and we hope that the spring and the summer and the further seasons will be many victories for us to celebrate. I want to stress once again, it's not just the war of Russia against Ukraine. Russia has started the war against the whole civilized world, and we're very much looking forward also to the summit in Bratislava, for instance, the Globsec Forum, where we usually meet with Indian leaders and discuss further opportunities of cooperation. Yet another example of our bravery.
But is there a fear? Is there a fear if you don't get the fighter jets that, unfortunately, you haven't got the fighter jets as far as Ukraine is concerned in the past 15 months. If you don't get the longer range missiles, then just with the S-300s or the Patriots, is the West giving you enough just to remain afloat and not win? Is that a genuine fear? Some American analysts argue this war will continue through 2023 and, God forbid, even 2024.
Very brief answer. We are fearless. You know that we are the nation of bravery, and we are, let's say, infecting with this bravery the whole world in a very positive sense. Everything comes at stages. Back in the days, journalists were saying that Kiev will fall in 3 days, but it didn't happen. And you have seen very optimistic, very great liberation operations in Kherson and Kharkiv region. We hope it will come in the south of Ukraine and in the east and Donbass as well, so that the liberation is rolling and the stages of the debates are ongoing. You know that we have submitted an application for NATO as well. Yes. We think we will strengthen the alliance. We look forward to the Vilnius summit as well this summer.
Fair enough. Maria Mezhitseva for joining me here on India First. Many thanks. Stay safe. I also want to quickly bring in Geeta Mohan, Zinia Kondrateva and Rajesh Pawar into this conversation. Geeta, will this Kremlin drone strike dominate the conversation, especially when it comes to security? All stakeholders at the SCO are directly or indirectly impacted by apprehensions of escalation.
Well, Gaurav, during the Bali summit, the G20 summit in Bali, the strike that entered Poland and Polish territory did overshadow the conversations at the G20. There was an emergency meeting of the G7 over here. Maybe there wouldn't be an emergency meeting or absolute overshadowing of the agenda, but there certainly is going to be one of the top in terms of agenda. And this time around, Sergei Lavrov, who's actually landing, who's one of the first to land in Goa tomorrow morning, early morning, he'll be here in Goa. He certainly will make it a point to raise this matter, talk about the fact that Kremlin did come under attack, and according to Russia and Russian authorities, that the UAV were Ukrainian. So that is what Russia's stand is, and Russia is going to take that forward and put that forth during the meetings here at the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting as well, and during the bilaterals that Dr. Jaishankar will be holding with Sergei Lavrov at around 3 p.m. tomorrow. Expect the conversation on Russia-Ukraine war, where the conversation will might move from this is not an era of war to what needs to be done next if this kind of actions continue, where Kremlin comes under attack and Russia officially is calling it an assassination attempt.
Oh, absolutely. Stay with me, Geeta. Xenia Kondrateva, has Kremlin offered any evidence of the involvement of Ukrainian forces in this drone strike, or the fact, or that it comes from Ukraine? Because, you know, Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, he says anything that comes from Kremlin, I'll take it not with a pinch, but a large shaker of salt.
Yeah, see, you have to always divide these kind of statements and filter, because yeah, that's a part of that propaganda, or, you know, hybrid war. No, we've not yet seen any solid evidence, at least in the media. But what we have seen since the afternoon or whatever overnight attack, we have seen much more reports of drones, you know, being downed in several regions of Russia. And actually, you have to put, what's important, you have to put this attack into a broader context. Firstly, you had reports in the Western media about Ukraine planning such an attack back in December, and that was reported as one of those leaked intel leaks in the US, right? So, I mean, we don't know. There is no evidence that it has been really a plan, because Ukraine, of course, denied it. And now this actually happens. Again, there is no evidence. I mean, two countries are at a state of war, so of course there is censorship over any sort of information. That is very understandable. But there is no military purpose of such attack, right? It's a big diplomatic, you know, diplomatic affair, I would say.
Okay.
Whether it was to escalate, or it was to, I don't know, anything else, that's something you have to see, and we'll see it in the coming days, I hope.
Absolutely.
But
I mean,
the attacks inside the Russian...
Yes.
Yeah, the attacks inside the Russian territory are happening every day now. I mean, it has been growing and growing, but for last 3 or 4 days, I believe, there have been multiple attacks.
A train has been targeted,
and that's
fuel
very
lines
important.
have been targeted. Yes.
Exactly.
I want to bring in Rajesh Pawar. Rajesh, you were reporting air raid sirens earlier. Is there an apprehension of major escalation? And does Ukraine have the capabilities to launch such a strike, Rajesh?
Look, Gaurav, there are two things which I want to bring to the notice of viewers. First is, as the Ukrainian parliament member said, it could be very well a false flag operation by Russians themselves in order to justify something they probably plan to do in Kyiv or other parts of Ukraine. That is one. Second thing, I doubt the capability of Ukraine or Ukrainian military to launch drones from Ukrainian territory all the way up to Moscow. This looks really not very possible to me. Even with the American and the British intelligence and other help they are getting, it doesn't look possible. So what my theory is, and I'm just thinking probably what is, there have been a lot of subversive activities inside the Russian territory.
Okay.
They have taken a lot of these people prisoners, and Ukrainians have been talking about these people who are kept in Crimea right now. There are a lot of Ukrainian sympathizers and ethnic Ukrainians living in Russian Federation. My guess is this is also highly possible
that it was subversive activity.
If it was,
let me bring in Xenia Kondrateva to respond to that. Xenia Kondrateva, the Kremlin is about 450 to 470 kilometers from the nearest Ukrainian border. Does Ukraine have the wherewithal to launch such a drone strike? Several analysts and experts say even with American help, perhaps they don't. Could it be subversive activities within Russia?
Yeah, this is never denied even by the, you know, Russian authorities. And in fact, we had some of Ukrainian officials saying a few months back, or probably last year, that Ukraine is going to launch the attacks very deep inside the territory of Russia, in the bigger cities. I think Moscow, St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk, and Yekaterinburg were named that time.
Yes.
But it will not be done from Ukraine. It will be done by those who, feel for Ukraine. Something of that. I'm not quoting, of course, right now.
Yes.
But that was said by the Ukrainian officials, and I think they are probably doing it effectively. So there is no, it doesn't have to be a direct attack right from the Ukrainian. I'm not sure whether Ukraine has the capability or not. It might as well have, because we don't know about all the technologies and weaponry that is supplied. So it can be that way as well.
Geeta, India is the chair of the G20 and the SCO this year. So one summit in July, the other in September, and this is something that the whole world is watching. The most powerful leaders in the world will be here, Geeta. Does India have a role as a peacemaker? Because the entire world would be very apprehensive about an escalation at this stage.
Well, India is playing a very important role, not particularly as a peacemaker, but certainly as a country that has been the go-between. Dr. Jaishankar, not so very long ago, Gaurav, said that the Ukrainians once had sent a message along to the Russian side through him, through India. And while India is not playing the official role of an official mediator or mediating between the two sides, the fact that it has enough capital and leverage when it comes to Russia as also with Ukraine is the reason why every country and even the West, Europe, America are looking at India to play an important role. Becoming the president or holding the presidency of the G20 and the SCO certainly is a huge responsibility, and India will be playing a very important key role when it comes to shaping the discourse and narrative, not just with regards to the Russia-Ukraine war, but with regards to conflicts across the globe.
Oh, absolutely.
So a very important
for the moment, we focus on the
India
Russia-Ukraine conflict, Geeta. But Rajesh, the spring offensive that's being spoken about. Now, Ukrainian President Zelenskyy said, when I get the fighter jets, when I get the longer range missiles, we see a major offensive. But will he wait for that? Or is that offensive going to happen in the Donetsk or Luhansk region in the coming weeks?
Look, as far as my guess goes, irrespective of what he gets, what he doesn't get, and most likely he'll get most of the equipments which Ukraine army is asking for. Fighter jets, I'm doubtful, but the rest of them, probably they will get it. And I think this, the offensive, the counter-offensive, which Ukraine is planning for a long time now, is likely to go through. And what I've heard from other sources is, this is what Ukraine is hoping for, that they are able to recapture a lot of this territory, which is right now under control of Russian forces, the same way which they could get back in the last counter-offensive, which they carried out around Kharkiv, and could get it back.
Fair enough. Xenia Kondrateva, Rajesh Pawar, Geeta Mohan, and our best team of reporters, analysts and guests will get you the latest on this big story. Remember, this perhaps will remain the top agenda even at the SCO foreign ministers meet, especially on the aspect of security tomorrow and day after, and we'll be reporting on this story.